It is Wednesday, the 1st of June, 2022. Well, happy 11th birthday, Steve, and your successful bar, Shooters, also known as the Bottom Peter Pit. Yeah, small-town successful bar. Made it through the pandemic, through North Dakota Governor Doug Gates' executive order, issued by a human resource manager pretending to be a state health officer. Oh yeah, people, I still have a throbbing heart-on over those events. And by the way, not bragging here, just reminding you, my bar restaurant stayed open 9 days longer than any other bar in North Dakota. Until, that is, the men with guns showed up, but they were here to protect and serve. Now, what happened to the bar and restaurant owners who caved into Governor Gates' decree? Those who never reopened and lost their businesses and their livelihoods? I don't know, but if I were to hazard a guess, some of them moved to Uvalde, Texas, and became cops and Texas Rangers, where there is safety in numbers, where being a pussy and standing around with assault weapons and doing nothing to stop the slaughter might give them back their peace of mind. Well, you know what I say? Once a pussy, always a pussy. You can't take the pussy out of North Dakota and relocate it to Texas without moving the pussy from North Dakota to Texas. Now, what happened to me? Don't you guys know? I got a long hours, no-pay job. Yep, up and out here on the wall. So let's get into today's podcast. Now, if it's Shooter's 11th birthday, that means 11 years ago I owned it before selling it to my youngest. Thinking about this, out of respect, I should include the wife and say our youngest. But after all these years, I still stand my ground. I did all the suffering and heavy lifting getting that kid to 18. Hey, I got the gray hair to prove it. Oh, sure, she might have been a little uncomfortable for 9 months pregnancy. But what's that compared to 18 years, I ask? Yeah, tell me. So, where do I start? 11 years ago, when I still owned the bar, I remember having a discussion with Dan the Mason Man's lovely daughter. We were discussing, is there a better word out there with more impact than the word pathetic? You're pathetic. The situation is pathetic. I've never seen so many pathetic people sitting in the Bottom Peter Pit at one time. We agreed, no, there is no word to replace pathetic. So I also asked her, what if we add an action verb? Something like effing, you're effing pathetic. Well, we ended up agreeing again. Pathetic needs no help. It is what it is, people. Pathetic. I love that word. I'm going to start using it more often. So let me lead off with a soundbite from Brian's most recent update to the pathetic protesters in Houston protesting the NRA convention. I hope my pathetic laptop doesn't fail me, but here we go. Ooh, I need to turn the volume up. All right.
Do you guys care about the First Amendment?
He's asking cops, you guys care about the First Amendment? What? What's he talking about?
I mean, it's the supreme law of the land, right? You guys are supposed to be upholding the First Amendment. I love America.
I hope your child dies by gun violence.
You hope my child dies by gun violence. That's horrible.
I hope your child dies by gun violence.
Do you guys trust the government?
No.
Who should take the guns? Who do you want to take away the guns from people who have AR-15s? Now, what does that mean, assault rifle? How do you define that?
Assault rifle means, let's see, it's a rifle that you use to assault somebody. And it's sad to say that I went to high school.
Wait a minute, pay attention to this. She's going to tell you about her high school career.
Here, okay? And I don't know the three branches of government by heart. I don't know how the government works. I don't know much of anything that has to do with the government, which is sad because as a minority, a lot of people that I know...
She doesn't know much about the government, but one thing she does know is that only the government should have the guns. Pathetic.
Are the same way, okay? They don't know how to read the Constitution. They don't know how to read an amendment. They don't know what an amendment is.
She's talking about her friends and fellow high school graduates, if she graduated. This chick wearing the big Calvin across her tits there is pathetic.
That's the sad truth, okay? And I admit that. But what I will not do, I will not allow my ignorance to stop me for standing up for something minimal as to the safety of our young children.
She won't allow her ignorance to stop her from standing up and begging the government to take the guns away. Pathetic people. I mean, isn't pathetic just an excellent word here?
So she just obeyed the guys with the guns. Okay.
Here come the cops.
How you doing, man? Wow. Whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for a conversation. Wow. Hey, I noticed you got awfully silent when they showed up. Oliveira, did you hear this lady right here?
No.
He's talking about the Miss Reproductive Rights chick that hoped his kids die in gun violence.
I'm sorry?
I don't agree with what you're doing.
Oh, it's not. I don't have freedom of speech. I don't have freedom.
Trying to make this young lady say
I don't have freedom of speech.
I'm not going to ask.
I don't have freedom of
I'm
speech.
not giving you permission to film me.
I'm not giving you permission to film me.
You don't have to.
That phone is on.
Ma'am.
You need to cut it off.
Ma'am, it's a public place.
That phone is on. You need to turn it off.
There,
When are these dumb fuckers going to get it through their head that you have no reasonable right to expect privacy in a public place? You know how many cameras are filming this dumb bitch at the moment I'm looking at this? She got them from across the street. The cops all are wearing body cameras. There's photographers all over the place. And she's reading him the riot act. You don't have my permission to film me. I know my rights. No, you don't, you pathetic bitch.
cameras are recording you. Those cameras are recording you.
Yeah, obviously, Brian. So, I mean, hey, I give the guy credit, boy. He did put himself in harm's way. And to have the patience to tolerate those pathetic people. Challenge any of my subs. If you've got a better word than pathetic, or if you know how to enhance pathetic and make it even more pathetic, let me know. Okay, now, from here, let's move on to a snippet from Tucker Carlson. I do not know why his handlers are allowing this. But, come on, baby, hold on, work.
As elementary schools. And yet they can't answer why the military force effectively outside this elementary school refused to stop the killing.
People want to arm the teachers and turn them into a military-trained force. That's what Tucker was responding about right there. But you had a military-trained force. Lots of guys with their big assault weapons, assault rifles, and they didn't do anything.
So this massacre could have been prevented at some point. It was not prevented. Why was that? We should know the answer, but don't hold your breath. No one in power seems anxious to hold themselves accountable for what happened in Uvalde.
Not to interrupt and cut him off. Hey, how come they don't have to answer us? How come to this day, in 2022, we still don't know the whole story on the JFK assassination? How come Martin Luther King's record's been sealed for 50 years? How about the Pfizer documents? They wanted them to be sealed for 75. People, when are you going to get sick and tired of this pathetic shit?
And amazingly, and this is so perverse it's hard to believe it's true, but it is, some seem determined to make future school shootings more likely. In California, the state assembly just voted to end the requirement, the long-standing requirement that was put in place after school shootings, that schools alert law enforcement when students, quote, attack, assault, or physically threaten school officials. That's no longer in place. And according to the Democratic Party, that's a win for equity. We know this because the sponsor of the bill, a California state senator called Stephen Bradford, said so. Here's what he told the Daily Caller, quote, Black students, Latinx students, students of color, and students with disabilities are disproportionately referred to law enforcement, cited, and arrested. And
Gee whiz, Batman, I wonder why that is. Oh, maybe they disproportionately commit most of the crimes. Oh, that's a no-brainer.
quote. So too many Latinx students in wheelchairs apparently are being blamed for school shootings, so there's no more violence reporting in California schools at all. So how does that help prevent the next school shooting? Well, of course it doesn't. But it's starting to seem like helping prevent school shootings is not really the point of this exercise. Amassing more power is the point. And we know this from what's happening north of us. Canada's Botox dictator, Justin Trudeau, wasted no time in using the tragedy in the U.S. to his own political advantage in Canada.
I almost skipped this ugly Fidel Castro's fruit of the loins, but it gave me a hell of an idea. I'll get to it here in a second. Be patient, people.
Now, Uvalde is more than 2,000 miles from Ottawa, but because of what Salvador Ramos was allowed to do in Texas, Canadians are no longer allowed to protect themselves. Justin Trudeau has introduced a bill that would ban Canadian citizens from buying, selling, and transferring handguns within their own country. Again, handguns were not the cause of the shooting in Uvalde. Uvalde's nowhere near Canada, and yet Justin Trudeau is using that tragedy to disarm anyone who disagrees with him. By the way, that law would empower courts to confiscate guns from people even if they've not committed a crime. Watch Justin Trudeau announce this paragraph, and as you do watch, pay special attention to the masked toadies behind him nodding in unison.
We're introducing legislation.
Yes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can see at least 10 masked toadies. Pathetic sheep, I call them, all wearing their shame muzzle. And these are your lawmakers. That's pathetic.
To implement a national freeze on handgun ownership. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. In other words, we're capping the market for handguns.
Moo, says the cow, bah, says the sheep. God, it's pathetic. But now listen, why I let you guys hear that? It gave me a hell of an idea. The wife, the kid, some of my other kids. Hey, old man, when are you going to get a job? Hey, old man, you need to get a job. Hey, hubby, you need a job. So I tell him, look, I'm going to be 67. Who's going to hire a wore-out, pathetic piece of shit like me? And they go, oh, no, people still work when they're 67. Okay, fine. My fallback. I wouldn't hire me. You see what I mean? So how am I going to work for somebody else if I wouldn't hire me? Then I watched this. Do you guys, and this was before my time, remember the great prohibition here in America where the fearless leaders declared, nah, we don't think you should have a tall, cool, crisp Millennium Budweiser. No, we don't think you should have a bottle of Ron Rico rum. Whatever. Well, Canada didn't give a shit about our pathetic liquor laws back then. They allowed plenty of Canadian whiskeys and blends to flow across the river, flow across the Great Lakes, Michigan. You know what I'm saying? They had no respect for our laws, and I don't blame them. Hey, I don't live in the U.S. I can buy liquor legally in Canada. So what if I send it along with a mule who pays me well for it? You go and get where I'm coming to? Well, Trudeau, I don't give a fuck about your handgun ban, but if I could buy him here and get him across into Canada, nobody'd ever be bothering me for a job again. I would own Willow City. Just saying, people. You see, you never know when opportunity knocks. You always got to be eyes open, ever thinking.
What's actually happening here is that people like Justin Trudeau know that their rule is illegitimate. They know perfectly well how resented they are, and they spend an awful lot of time thinking about civil unrest. You probably don't. You live in a democracy, so you don't imagine that anyone needs to be disarmed for political reasons. But people like Justin Trudeau can feel the deep resentment aimed at them, and they are fully intent on disarming the population. Now, we reached out to Justin Trudeau's office today about this new law. We wanted to know if Trudeau will apply these laws to himself. That's always the first and most important test of sincerity. If it's good for me, it ought to be good for you too, and vice versa. So, in this case, will Justin Trudeau's state-funded bodyguards be relinquishing their handguns? And how about their banned AR-15s? But of course, we're not allowed to know the answer to that question because he's in power and we're not. Quote, "We do not comment on matters related to the Prime Minister's security," his office responded. Meaning, of course not. Justin Trudeau isn't that stupid. He's going to continue to protect his own family. You're just not going to be allowed to protect yours in Canada. Now, here in the United States, as always, Democrats are watching very carefully what Trudeau is up to as they plan our future here. And already the rhetoric of the Democratic Party has changed for years. Democrats, Joe Biden, his supporters in the media have talked about banning AR-15s, the so-called weapons of war, which are not in fact used by any military. But weapons of war have been their focus. Watch.
The venom of the haters and their weapons of war.
Assault-style weapons that are weapons of war.
And purchase these weapons of war.
To get these weapons of war.
Finally ridding our streets of weapons of war.
What we should be doing is taking these weapons of war out of the hands of civilians.
Because they see what these weapons of war do on the street.
An assault weapon is a weapon of war with no place on it. no place in a civil society.
Says Camel Toe Harris. What a pathetic excuse for a human being.
They wouldn't know what end the bullet comes out of. They know nothing about this topic. They don't even know the basic crime stats. In the United States, rifles kill fewer people every year than fists or knives do. There's no effort afoot to ban knives or fists. But weapons of war have long been their focus, meaning AR-15s, the single most popular self-defense rifle in
Almost done here, people.
the United States. Self-defense is the point. On Sunday, Congressman Adam Kinzinger has decided, and says it out loud, that in order for him to feel safe, we're going to need to confiscate your rifle because he feels unsafe. Watch.
Congressman, you do still oppose a ban on the kind of assault weapons that were used in this shooting. Can you explain why private citizens need weapons of war?
Look, I have opposed a ban, fairly recently. I think I'm open to a ban now.
Republican Adam Kinzinger. So are all Democrats pathetic? You know they are. How about all Republicans? Absolutely. Two wings, same bird. The Masonic Phoenix bird. If you don't believe me, ask Dan the Mason.
Can you explain, Congressman, why private citizens need weapons of war? Now, CNN ain't...
Well, then creepy Uncle Joe's going after the 9mm round because, you can kill people. He figured out you can kill people with bullets. And in fairness to the cause, Tucker did ask. They sent out emails to the Senate majority, Senate minority, and House majority speaker and said, hey, you guys gonna follow these laws and disarm your bodyguards or their 9MMs and their AR-15 assault rifles? They didn't even respond. At least Trudeau's pathetic group of pundits did respond and say, we can't discuss the Prime Minister's security. All right, people. It's getting a little old. God, this is going to be one of my longest. I want to slip in the last thing here. Bring you an update on the Ukraine war. Yeah, and all your support. And I think they want to send more. What are you, 40, 50, 60 billion and counting? Need more weapons. So let's put it up to the far left pot-smoking comedian, who, by the way, is not pathetic. Bear with me.
Breaking news, the Washington Post is for some reason telling you the truth about what's happening in Ukraine. Here's a headline. Ukrainian volunteer fighters in the east feel abandoned. And here is a video of these Ukrainian fighters, and it's being, I'll read it to you, it's being, you can keep it down low.
Okay, now wait a minute. Let me set this up for a minute now. You know what you've been told from your fearless leaders, politicians, both pathetic Democrats, pathetic Republicans. The Ukraine's winning. Russian army, they're in shambles. They're pathetic. That's not a fighting force. They're not going to nuke anybody. No, the Ukrainians kicking the shit out of them.
Because it's being translated. Watch. We are the platoon of the 115th Brigade. 3rd Battalion is based in that town that just got taken over.
I'm looking at a video here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, God, 15, 16 soldiers standing behind the spokesperson here. That has been translated.
We are addressing you, Mr. President Zelensky, and you, Mr. Zaluzny. Who's that?
He's one of the top brass in the military.
Okay. So, and the whole Ukrainian nation, we refuse to perform a combat mission due to the fact that...
Waiting for the translation.
That we have no proper protection from behind. Namely, heavy equipment that would cover us and proper commanders. We have been waiting for reinforcements for 2 weeks now. We are being sent to certain death. We are being sent to certain death. We have no battle commanders. We have no equipment. There is no respect for the soldiers.
Can we send him some money?
Hang on. Nothing whatsoever. We don't refuse to protect our country, but we want to have a proper rear and proper military leadership. We are not alone like this. We are many. We refuse to serve in the 115th Brigade. Glory to Ukraine. Wow, so that's a big deal. And so that guy speaking, I'm pretty sure, is this guy, Lapko. And this is from the article. It says he's built like a wrestler. He was made a company commander in the 5th Separate Rifle Battalion in charge of 120 men. The similarity, Burley Cruz became a platoon commander under Lapko. All of their comrades were from Western Ukraine.
You want to hear something pathetic, people? Keep listening.
They were handed AK-47 rifles and given training that lasted less than a half an hour. Do you want to go fight the heavily trained, heavily armed, heavily commanded Russian army when you have a half-hour training? Not only that, when they trained them, they gave them some bullets, teach them how to shoot. They shot 30 bullets, and then they said you can't get more because they're too expensive.
They weren't even given radios to call for support. But they're kicking the shit out of those goddamn Russians. You know, I'm glad somebody's kicking the shit out of them. People we are continuously lied to. This will go down as one of my longest podcasts ever. So, I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to tell you people what you already know. While you're rolling over, I'm going to be rolling out. I got stuff to do.